Today I wanted to go over the first steps of learning to play piano, which funny enough doesn't actually involve any piano playing. First thing to think about is how to sit at the piano. You want to be a good enough distance away so that your elbows are just in front of your body, not tucked behind you or right into your sides. The reason for this is that we want to be nice and relaxed. We want our shoulders to be relaxed. We want the arms to feel as relaxed as possible. And when you're sitting too close and your elbows are very tucked in, what tends to happen is your shoulders get very tight and up towards your ears, which we don't want. Another reason to check how far away you're sat from the piano is because when you're sat too close, and this can happen as well when you're sitting at the right distance, so it's a good thing just to check anyway, is making sure that your wrists are staying nice and level. What happens sometimes with people is that the wrists start to drop down below the height of the keys. When this happens, we're putting a lot of extra strain on those wrists when they dip below the level of the key, and over time that can cause injury and strain. So what we're looking for is to keep the wrist above the height of the key, nice and in line with the rest of your hand, and then you know that when you play you're doing it safely. You also want to check your height when sitting at the piano. When you have your hands on the keys, you should have a nice straight line from the elbow to your hand. If you're sitting too low down, what's going to happen is your elbow is going to be lower and your hand's going to be too high, and we don't have enough control or weight to easily press through the keys. The opposite of that will be the elbow being higher than the hand, which also makes it really difficult to control how you press the keys down as well when you're playing. So look for that straight line from elbow to hand when your hands are resting on the keys, and you'll know that the height is about right. Okay, so next thing to think about is how and where you should place your fingers on the keys. We've got the white keys and the black keys, and what we're looking for is the fingers to sit just behind the black keys rather than being in between them. And again, this helps you to play the keys more easily with more control. When you're further back towards the edge of the key, it's much easier to press and release the key than when your hands are further towards the back of the keys. Especially when you're playing on an acoustic piano, you will notice that if you're too far into the keys will stick a lot more often, which basically means the note won't make a sound when you try and play, which is not very helpful. And when you've got your fingers placed on the keys correctly, we then want to think about what shape we want to make with our fingers. Now, ideally, we want to have a nice curve. So if you think about when you relax your hand completely, it creates a sort of natural curve through the fingers, and this is sort of what we're looking for when we place the fingers down onto the keys. And when we have this shape, we're going to be playing the keys using the very tips of the fingers, and on the thumb it's going to be the side of the thumb here. Now, if you're somebody who likes to keep your nails long, this sort of shape is not going to be very easy to manage. You'll end up with probably slightly flatter fingers on the keys because your nails are just getting in the way of being able to be right on the tip here. Now, that's not to say you can't play piano with long nails or with fake nails, but it does make it a lot easier as a beginner if you have your nails trimmed down so that we can get to this part of the finger. And again, it just helps you with more control through your notes. You can play without feeling like you're skidding over the keys. A good test to find out if your nails are a suitable length is to hold your hand up in front of you, and if you can see any nail out the top of the finger, then that probably wants to be trimmed down. We want to be able to have no nails in the way. Mine are always very short, as you can see. One other thing that people debate is your posture at the piano. Most piano teachers will tell you to sit up straight, have your back nice and flat, have your head up and facing the music in front of you. And some of you might be thinking, but I've seen concert pianists and other performers sit at pianos and play all hunched over and looking down at the keys, or the complete opposite, almost arched back and looking nowhere. So obviously it can be a bit confusing when you're first learning piano to understand and know what's the right way to sit at a piano and what correct posture or what good posture you can start to use when you play. I would say that when you're learning piano, you ideally want to be facing straight forward so that you're reading the music and you're taking it in, because the second you start curving your back, what happens is that your gaze is going to start heading down towards your fingers. And this is something that a lot of beginners end up doing because there's an insecurity there, I suppose, with knowing where their hands are on the keys. So naturally they start to want to look down to check their fingers, and with that the posture then curves. When you get to a stage and you're comfortable with reading the music and also comfortable with feeling your way around the keys rather than having to look at your hands to check where they are, then I think you're free to do whatever posture you like. But until you get to that point, it's probably best practice to stay more upright so that you know that you're looking straight ahead and you're taking in the music and you're learning to feel the keys more instinctively rather than having to look at them when you're playing. Okay, so that covers the basics for what you need to know to start playing. If you have any other questions on getting started with piano playing, please leave them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. So get playing! See you next time!